Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read Aloud of Lois Lowry's Number the Stars. Hopefully, you were able to answer all your questions for Chapter 5. Today, we're taking Chapter 6. This one is called Is the Weather Good for Fishing? So, yesterday, you remember that the Nazis had come to their apartment and caused quite a ruckus. We must think what to do, Papa said. They are suspicious now. To be honest, I thought that they would come here at all, and I really hoped they wouldn't. That they would just glance around and see that we had no place to hide anybody and they would just go away. I'm sorry I have dark hair, Ellen murmured. It made them suspicious. Mama reached over quickly and took Ellen's hand. You have beautiful hair, Ellen, just like your mama's. Don't ever be sorry for that. Weren't we lucky that Papa thought so quickly and found the pictures? And weren't we lucky that Lise had dark hair when she was a baby? It turned blonde later on when she was about 2. In between, Papa said, she was bald for a little while. Ellen and Anne-Marie both smiled. For a moment, their fear had eased. Tonight was the first time Anne-Marie realized suddenly that Mama and Papa had spoken of Lise. It was the first time in 3 years. Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten. Mrs. Johansson went to the kitchen and began to make tea. I've never been up so early before, Anne-Marie said. Ellen and I will probably fall asleep in school today. Papa rubbed his chin. I think we must not take the risk of sending you to school today. It is possible that they will look for the Jewish children in the schools. Not go to school, Ellen asked. My parents have always told me that education is the most important thing. Whatever happens, I must get an education. This will only be a vacation, Ellen. From now on, your safety is the most important thing. I'm sure your parents would agree. Inge, Papa called Mama in the kitchen. She came into the doorway with a teacup in her hand and a questioning look on her face. Yes, we must take the girls to Henrik's. You remember what Peter told us? I think today is the day to go to your brothers. Miss Johansson nodded. I think you're right, but I will take them. You must stay here. Stay here? And let you go alone? Of course not. I wouldn't send you on such a dangerous trip alone. Mama put a hand on Papa's arm. If only I go with the girls, it will be safer. They are unlikely to suspect a woman with just her children. But if they watch us and they see us all leave, they're going to be aware that this apartment is empty. That you don't go to your office in the morning, and then they will know that something's up, and then it will be dangerous. I am not afraid to go alone. It was very seldom that Mama and Papa disagreed. Anne-Marie watched his face and knew that he was struggling to make a decision. Finally, he nodded. I will pack some things, Mama said. What time is it? Papa looked at his watch. Almost 5, he said. Henrik will still be there. He leaves around 5. Will you please call him? Papa went to the telephone. Ellen looked puzzled. Who is Henrik? Where does he go at 5? Anne-Marie laughed. He's my uncle. He's Mom's brother, and he's a fisherman. They leave very early. All the fishermen do each morning. Their boats go out at sunrise. Oh, Ellen, you will love it there. It is where my grandparents live, where Mama and Uncle Henrik grew up. It's so beautiful, right on the water. And if you stand on the edge of the meadow and look out, you can see Sweden. She listened while Papa spoke on the telephone to Uncle Henrik, telling him that Mama and the children were coming for a visit. Ellen had gone into the bathroom and closed the door. Mama was still in the kitchen, so only Anne-Marie was listening. And it was a very puzzling conversation. So, Henrik, is the weather good for fishing? Then he continued, I'm sending Inge to you today with the children, and she's going to bring you a big carton of cigarettes. Yes, just 1 carton. But there are lots of cigarettes available in Copenhagen now if you know where to look for cigarettes. And so there will be other packages coming to you as well, I'm sure. But it wasn't true. Anne-Marie was quite certain it wasn't true. Cigarettes were the one thing that Papa missed, the way Mama missed coffee. He complained often. He had complained only yesterday that there were no cigarettes in the stores. And the men in his office, he said, making a face, smoked almost anything. Sometimes they dried weeds and rolled them in paper, and the smell was terrible. Why was Papa speaking that way? Almost as if he was speaking in code. What was Mama really talking to Uncle Henrik? What was she taking? Then she knew. It was Ellen. The train ride along the Danish coast was very beautiful. Again and again they could see the sea from the windows. Anne-Marie had made this trip often to visit her grandparents when they were alive, and later, even when they were gone, just to see the cheerful, sun-tanned, and unmarried uncle who she loved. But the trip was new to Ellen, who sat with her face pressed to the window watching the lovely houses along the seaside. Look, Anne-Marie exclaimed, it's Klappenborg, and the deer park. Oh, I wish we could stop here, just for a little while. Not today, said Mamma. The train did not stop at the small Klappenborg station, but none of the passengers got off. Have you ever been there, Ellen? Mamma asked, but Ellen just said no. Well, someday we'll go. Someday you will walk through the park and you will see the hundreds of deer that are tame and free. Christy wriggled up to get on her knees. I don't see any deer. Well, they're there, or I'm sure they're just hiding in the trees. The train started again. The door at the end of their car opened and 2 German soldiers appeared. Anne-Marie tensed. Soldiers were everywhere. Together the soldiers strolled through the car, glancing at passengers, stopping here and there to ask a question. One of them had something stuck in his teeth. He probed with his tongue and distorted his own face. Anne-Marie watched with a kind of frightened fascination. One of the soldiers looked down with a bored expression. Where are you going? Giligi, Mamma replied. My brother lives there. We're going to visit him. Are you visiting your brother for the new year? Mamma stared at him with a puzzled look. New year? It's only October. And guess what? Christy yelled suddenly in the loud voice, looking at the soldier. Anne-Marie's heart sank. Shh, Christy, don't chatter so. But Christy paid no attention to Mamma as usual. She looked up at the soldier, and Anne-Marie knew what she was about to say. This is our friend Ellen, and it's her New Year. But she didn't say it. Instead, Christy pointed at her feet and said, I'm going to visit my Uncle Henrik, and I'm wearing my brand new shiny black shoes. The soldier chuckled and moved along. Anne-Marie gazed out the window. The trees, the sea, and the cloudy October sky passed in a blur as they continued on their way to the coast. Smell the air, Mamma said as they stepped off the train. Isn't it lovely? Isn't it fresh? The air was breezy and cool and carried the sharp but not unpleasant smell of salt and fish. High against the pale clouds, seagulls soared and cried out. Mamma looked at her watch. I wonder if Henrik will be back yet. But it doesn't matter, the house is always unlocked. Come along, girls. It's not that far, just under 2 miles, and it's a nice day. Didn't you love the castle when we went through Heiselskor, Ellen? Christy asked. She had been talking about Kronborg Castle ever since they had seen it. I wish we could have stopped to visit that castle. Kings live there, and queens. Anne-Marie sighed. They do not. They did in the old days, but there aren't any kings there now. Denmark only has 1 king anyway, and he lives in Copenhagen. But Christy just pranced away. Kings and queens, kings and queens, kings and queens. Mamma shrugged. Let her dream, Anne-Marie. You used to dream too when you were her age. She turned, leading the way along the tiny, twisting street. Things have hardly changed here since I was a girl. My Aunt Gita lived there, in that house, she pointed, and she'd been dead for years. But the house is the same. She always had wonderful flowers in her garden. Maybe they still do, but it's the wrong time of year for flowers. And see over there, my best friend, her name was Helena. She lived in that house, and sometimes I used to stay over at night, but more often she came to my house on the weekends. It was more fun to come out and visit the country. And my brother Henrik always teased us. He told us ghost stories, and he scared us half to death. The sidewalk ended, and Mamma turned onto the dirt path. When I walked each morning into town for school, my dog would follow me, right to this point, and at the end of this path, he would turn around and go home. Guess he was a country dog, and he didn't like visiting the city. And you know what? She went on smiling. I had named him Trofast. That means faithful. And it was just the right name for him because what a faithful pooch he was. Every afternoon, he was always right here waiting for me to return. He knew the right time somehow. Sometimes I came around this bend, even today, I feel like I'll see Trofast waiting for me with his tail wagging. But the path was empty. No people. No faithful dogs. Mamma shifted her bag she was carrying from one hand to the other, and they walked through the woods until the path opened in a meadow. At the end of the pasture, they entered the woods. Again, and Anne-Marie knew they would soon be there, at Uncle Henrik's house, in the clearing beyond the woods. Do you mind if I run ahead? She said. I want to be the first to get to the house. Go on, Mamma said. Run ahead and tell the house we've come. Then she put her arm around Ellen and say that we've brought along a special friend. All right, everybody, don't forget to access today's questions. You should be listening to 2 read-alouds a week and responding to them. All right? Tune in next time to find out what happens in Number the Stars.